Salutations, nerds! We're watching the MCU in all of its glory.
Welcome back, everybody, to the show that we have designated Phased Out, the show that was created to make Nick hate Jared and I.
And today,
we're watching.
Today, it's going to be proven right, probably.
I think so. I think today is the first day there's going to be some tension.
But I also feel like I am not the outlier here. I feel like it's pretty common consensus. This is a very good.
Oh, no, you're on the side of the hoi polloi.
I think you're the outlier in this room.
Oh, definitely in this room. But general populist consensus,
so,
I think I'm right in line with them.
Oh, you are.
I think that's fair.
Which I don't know if it's a good thing. We'll see.
Anyway, we're watching through the MCU movies because we're just tired.
This is the 9th one.
Aren't you tired by now? I'm tired.
See, if I cared more about them, maybe I'd be tired. But this, I'm getting through these fine.
You did sum up your review for this movie in your love of garlic bread.
Yeah, I love garlic bread.
I understand. Do you want me to go first? I think I have the hot take.
I feel like my take is just the common known one. So I'll just sit back and see what you got.
This is often I have heard it often referred to as the crown jewel in the MCU crown. Would you agree with that? I think there are better ones.
There are better ones
at this point, but at the point it came out, it was referred to as that.
It was a mind-blowing game changer.
It was.
Everyone was talking about it to the point where I made it a point not to watch it, because me at that time was like, someone likes something
that
popular.
Kind of hipster.
Yeah.
Yep. And then when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, okay. But then it's dropped. So it's the third time I've seen it.
I got to tell you, I have a fond memory of this movie. It's the first movie I went to see with my now wife. So that'll make it 2014, probably May of 2014 or something like that.
For some reason, I thought you saw the Lego movie with her, which was earlier in the year.
No.
That's when I refused to watch because everybody liked it. I was already hook, line, and sinker in the MCU, but Lego movie, don't even try
Hipster line and singer, more like it.
Look at these
you are
hipsters
wearing a
I have
hat.
to sit
Lego
here
movie's
with.
amazing.
Can you believe this? Can you believe this?
You're wearing a Snorlax hat. That's not hipster, but you are wearing a hat.
Depends on what year it is. That could be considered hipster.
That's true.
It honestly depends.
It is a dad hat.
Very dad hat. Yeah.
It is a dad hat. So my take on this, I was in the camp of I loved this. I thought it was a game changer. I thought it was so different. But every time I watch it since, which is a lot, I will admit it's probably one of the ones I watched because I loved it so much. I kind of don't like it now, and I kind of think it's just mid. Well, okay, so
sorry, Nick.
I'm
sorry if that was mean.
Please just
have them.
Please just sit back and let me get through my whole spiel on this first.
Oh, I am willing to listen.
It doesn't
because you're with them to the end of the line.
Because I don't think the movie's the problem. I think it's Jake. Because he used to love this movie. What happened, bud? What happened in your life to make you dislike this movie? We'll find out.
That's fair. So, the movie, if you step back and look at it, contains none of what characterized MCU movies up until that point. There's no bombastic comic bookiness to it. It's very serious, very dark, and like 27-year-old me really bought into that. 37-year-old me is like,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it was.
But it was supposed to be the big dark shift in tone. It's supposed to be the last 50 pages of Goblet of Fire type shift.
Yeah, it's not.
Except not as effective.
So here's the thing. It's too long. Number one. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes, and it started happening. I started thinking this. It all started to unravel when I started thinking, they really could have started this movie with the assassination attempt on Nick Fury, and I would have not missed anything. Anything.
I'm trying to remember what happens prior. Well,
I know.
I watched this today, partly on my phone, partly on my TV, partly on my iPad, depending on where I was, because I had a lot of running around to do. So trying to remember what parts I watched when and on what device.
The first act of the movie is him readjusting And there's the boat scene with, what is it, Batroc?
Yeah, Batroc the Leaper.
Yep. The lemur?
Leaper. That's why all of his fighting is with his feet. That is his comic book name.
Oh,
He's a foot guy.
Oh! Quentin Batroc.
Yeah.
Anyway. And it's him and, like, meeting Sam and all that. It's the readjustment, which is fine, but he's kind of right because they don't do a ton with the development of anything after that in this movie, really.
So then, beyond that, for a movie that is called Captain America: The Winter Soldier has shockingly little screen time and is hilariously unnecessary to the plot. Like, it could be anybody. Anybody.
Yeah, it could be.
You're right. Okay, so.
In many other missions, it probably was.
Yeah.
The one they decided to make a movie out of is the one that they have a connection to.
But here's the thing. They don't lean into that connection at all. Except for the 1 minute scene where they walk up the stairs after the Chris Evans' parents die, and he says he gets the key and says, "I'm with you till the end."
End of the line.
What?
Isn't end of the line?
Yeah.
End of the line.
And then Cap parrots that back to him 15 minutes later in this movie, where we have it's predicated on the fact that you were invested in their relationship in the first movie, which did better but didn't do all that great.
Can I step in just for a second? Because that is actually one of the scenes I wanted to talk about, and my hate for the placement of where it is in the movie.
Yes.
I think that should be a 2-part scene where you get part of it maybe at the funeral and the second half later on in the movie when he finds out it's Bunky. When he's at the museum and they start talking about Bucky. Sorry. I know I said Bunky. I know. I heard it too.
I heard it too, and I was just going to let it sit there.
So I'm like starting to get phlegmy.
Bunky.
I think when they start talking about Bucky and you have him staring at a picture of him and they're going over what happened to him, that's where it should phase into that first flashback where you see him at the funeral. Second, later when we find out he sees it's Bucky, you remember the rest of that flashback. They don't do that, but I feel like that flashback is such a weird placement in the movie.
You want my honest opinion? I think the whole movie should be a juxtaposition between Steve's growing friendship with Sam and Bucky and his relationship. I think the whole movie should be flipping back and forth between the two. And so when you get to that point where Hydra takes over, or Hydra is sending him up to there's some emotional poignance to maybe he has to choose between Sam and Bucky and can't, and ends up probably not having to because it's Marvel. Let's be honest about this.
Then you lose the who is this person factor, because yes, we all know who Bucky is now, but I remember sitting in that theater and people, when that mask came off, people were like, "Holy shit."
Did it really shock you? It did
not
no.
Me,
okay.
no, because
okay.
I've read the Winter Soldier
I was
comics,
going to say it didn't shock me at all. What are you talking about?
I remember hearing people gasp in the theater when the mask came off. I remember it
But he doesn't have any but
you ruined that surprise, which they wanted the same reveal for Cap being the same one for the audience.
I still think
he's in shadow the whole time throughout the movie. Other than that,
I still think that you can do it without revealing that that's Bucky beforehand. You don't have to tell them. You don't have to tell them, or just write it some way to make the Winter Soldier more necessary to the plot.
My thing was put that end of the line scene, the opening scene, and then you're flashing back and doing the backwards, so it's when revealed to be Bucky. It's not as big of an oomph, but you can still kind of hide it from the biggest morons on the planet.
I feel like putting it at the beginning gives it away. I feel like putting it when Bucky's mentioned, when he's at the memorial, to trigger the flashback makes it so it's not obvious that that's the person who's the mystery person.
He's probably right. That is probably a better placement.
We need a trigger in there to give a reason for that flashback. Otherwise, it's just, hey, we're showing you a thing about Bucky who's been dead since the last Captain America movie. There's a reason later. You'll find out. But if we have a trigger for it, then I feel like it isn't caught as much by the audience.
Yeah, and the movie does this weird thing, like when he and Natasha are on the run, it's like 70s paranoia thriller. It's actually kind of effective, but they only do it for like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because then, of course, they have tech to save him. The stuff with Zola in the bunker is really good.
Yeah, they needed to have more Zola
stuff. Mostly because I like classic comic Zola, where he's a face in a guy's stomach, a robot stomach. He is
what's the
TMNT guy? Yeah, he's basically that. or it's just head in the stomach. I want that guy.
But once it's like Fury's not dead, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Like that reveal is like, okay,
Yeah.
we keep doing this, and it's also like from that point on, it becomes the one big plan, and it just loses me.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because some of the fight choreography is actually really good.
Yeah,
when I
it's
can
Like
see
that,
it.
the main chase scene when the mask comes off is really good.
Yeah. So is the Quentin Petrock fight on the boat. When those
I
two
think
are.
the Fury scene is really good too. The escape scene.
Yeah. There's good action sequences, but I think the story holding it together is lacking in emotional connection outside of the one reveal, and then the him repeating the line back to him 15 minutes after we first heard
So
it.
bringing it back to Marcus and McFeely real quick, I feel like they have a hard time with second acts. First Captain America movie, second act is very weak. Thor, the second act is very weak. This movie's second act is pretty weak, and it kind of continues for every one of their movies. I feel like they don't know how to work that connective thread in the middle of a movie, but their beginnings and ends are usually very solid. But I would say this is one of their better second acts, while still not being great.
I just think there needs to be more of that connection between the two
For me,
throughout the movie to make that last scene where he's punching him feel, because this time I was like,
yeah, for me,
just
like
don't
this is
feel
very
it.
clearly the emotional pinnacle of the movie, or is supposed to be, and it's just like, I mean, it reminded me of the Martha thing with BVS. Like, it means nothing. It means nothing because there's nothing to really set it up, save that one scene.
Yeah.
Predicated on you being invested in the first movie, which I'm sure a lot of people saw this movie without having seen the first movie.
I'll never forget the trailer came out and everyone was freaking out, and I was not invested at all in the MCU, and I'm not the cleverest person when it comes to calling things, and I've never read any of the comics, but in the trailer, just by the look of him, for what you see, I go, oh, hey, it's Bucky!
Yeah, it works a lot better in the comic.
Yeah.
Because
Probably got a full head of...
we could also draw it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
When you take the mask off,
Yep.
draw it back to kind of how you originally had it. Also, in the comics, we didn't see Bucky for 15 years in the comics. The writer of that comic was like, yeah, nobody's talked about this character in a while. I want to do something with him. Like, where has he been? Maybe he didn't die. They bring him back. Like, it's a character that people in comics literally forgot existed. So when he came back, like, it's easy to do so, but 4 years later with the same actor, a little harder to hide.
Whoever I was with when I said that, because I was like sitting in front of my computer and it was playing, like you're scrolling, and I'm like, hey, there's Bucky, and they go, who? And I go, well, you've seen the first one? They go, yeah, years ago. I go, there's Bucky.
Mhm.
They didn't know who that was because he's not a huge part of that first one. Even that's not really done that well.
No.
You said the same thing. You said the same thing last episode. The side characters. I know you're talking about Thor, but a lot of the side characters in the MCU. Actually, you might have said MCU. Kind of don't get much to do if it's not their movie.
Yeah,
And that sucks.
it really does. They're kind of just there, like, a lot of times it's there just to reference the comics. So that they can also maybe play with that character later, which they did with Winter Soldier. But a lot of it's just there to have comic relief.
That's the other thing for me. This movie, I can only say this with the hindsight of what they did up to Endgame. This movie makes it feel, what they did later makes this movie feel like a means to an end.
Not as bad as the last movie in that.
No,
department.
definitely not as bad. Just in what they wanted to do with Captain America and Bucky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're even seeding that. I mean, they're seeding the Sam stuff throughout here, where I do everything he does, just slower.
See, I really like
seeding the fact that he might be Cap one day. Like,
I really love Captain Falcon.
So my favorite thing about this movie, I think the thing that helps me overlook some of the stuff about it, is I think this is my favorite version of every one of these characters. This is my favorite version of Bucky when he's Winter Soldier and working for the government and doesn't fully know who he is or who Cap is. My favorite version of Natasha, who is trying to do the right thing but still deep rooted in all of her spy stuff. And Cap, who his whole world's crumbling around him. The government he's trusted his entire life is the guys he was fighting
Hydra.
his entire life. And Sam, who is this counselor for vets because he couldn't do it anymore after his partner died. Like, this is my favorite version of all these characters.
I do feel like you have a connection because you know the source material.
It does help.
We don't.
Cap was very big in the 90s. I didn't read a ton of his comics, but he was in every video game. He would pop up in different animated TV shows all the time, so I was very well versed in his story. And I read the Winter Soldier years ago, and big fan of that. So that also helps with this, being a fan of the source material of this exact movie.
I think something more interesting to me is because it's all about the brainwashing of him. It's almost more interesting if he has been brainwashed and he's remembered who he is over the year, because the time for Cap being frozen. So when Cap shows up, it's off screen.
Yeah.
But it's this torn between this thing that he's like kind of forced to be a part of and his friend. So because him trying to get through to his friend who's been brainwashed isn't super compelling, or at least not on a rewatch.
I just really like that aspect of this movie.
It's just kind of a, I don't know,
The
but
brainwashing part of it?
The Cap trying to break him of the brainwashing.
I think it's stronger if it's he knows what he's doing, he has no choice, and he has to keep going, but Cap is trying to get to him. I think that's because when he's more aware of who he is, maybe not fully, but he's more aware. I think that because it's more about choices and not just he just does it because he has to.
I will say that they developed that specific aspect of it pretty well in the Cap trilogy.
I also
because you see more of how the brainwashing works in Civil War.
And I also like this thing of him not knowing anything about his life and he's unsure about everything. But when they're like, all right, reset him, he immediately sits back and opens his mouth like, I know this. This is a thing I'm comfortable with. I understand this. They don't force him to open him. He literally, before they even bring the thing up, he sits back, opens his mouth, and puts his arms to the side. As soon as they're like, reset him, he's like, all right, let's go.
I do also like that his arm makes noises that it doesn't make in later movies.
Yeah. Before it's upgraded by Wakanda. I do like they kept the arm reload thing that he does later in the movies, even though it's a different arm. He probably doesn't have to do the little swirl around.
Every time Cap says his name, it's so funny. It
I will agree with
ruins the mood.
The
mask comes off. It's the shot of Steve going, and then it turns. And it's the hair whooshing in the wind, and then just Bucky.
Is there a way to say Bucky Barnes without sounding dumb though? Like they tried later by just calling him Buck, but even that doesn't work.
And then
what
you
is
mentioned
his actual name?
James Buchanan Barnes,
Buchanan.
which is really fun. I was talking to a colleague of ours the other day, and we were talking about like presidents, and it was like, James Buchanan, one of the worst presidents, kind of helped not stop the Civil War right before Lincoln. And I mentioned and we have a Marvel character named after him, and he just stared at me like, who? I go, Bucky. He's like, what? I go, James Buchanan Barnes. They say his name multiple times.
A lot, actually.
And he's like, I didn't know that. I go,
Yep.
I'm not even a big MCU fan, and I knew that.
But they had to call him Bucky, Jared. Like all the old sidekicks that were 12 years old.
Same thing
Bucky,
with
Speedy.
It's the same thing with the after credit scene in Ant-Man when it's where they find him, and then just Steve goes, Bucky. I go, nope.
I always thought that as like, you can't say Bucky and have it not sound dumb.
You know what? We were talking about with the flashing back and forth between the thing? Mm-hmm. That would have been allowed for more adventures with that whole crew in the museum.
What were they called again?
The Howling Commandos.
Thank you.
Specifically referencing the guy in the bowler.
Dum Dum
Dugan. Is that Neil McDonough?
I say a waste of Neil McDonough.
Yeah, I need more Neil McDonough in my life.
Seriously, I love Neil McDonough and I love Dum Dum Dugan. Even in the comics, he is just a very boisterous, big guy. And Neil McDonough was perfect casting for that.
I wish that they would have leaned more into the comic booky
side characters.
Just mention them. Don't use them. Unless it's a direct side character like Bucky or Loki.
One really stupid thing in this movie that I don't believe they do again, and I hated it the first time, it's the reveal at the end with the face thing that Black Widow.
FaceNet?
I hate that thing.
They do it all the time, Jared.
In the comics?
Nope.
When?
In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
See?
It is an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. thing.
I hate it. Because it's the same thing like the masks in Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
Once you do it, you have to keep doing it. And they haven't done it in a while, but it gets so annoying.
I think they do it once or twice throughout the movies later on, but it's very minor characters doing it, so it's not focused on like this.
Yeah, it's
dumb. I also hate the motion that everybody does. It's always this, full fingers around.
And
it's probably because it's you got to give us enough time to draw the mask.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, and give us something to for you to grab onto with each finger. Yeah.
Whereas with Red Skull guy, it's just But that's
ripping
a
off
physical
prosthetics.
mask.
Yeah. It looks so dumb. And also, like, Scarlett Johansson's figure and that woman's figure are vastly different. Pretty sure he would have known, hey, you're not the woman I know because you're a bit taller. And
Hey, so let's just have a round of applause for this movie being the first movie in the MCU to not put Scarlett Johansson purposefully in a bra in front of us.
honestly, like, she's in a hoodie most of the movie. She's also not in a cat suit pretty much at all in this movie, except for at night on a boat where you don't really see. She's not being. That's not the focal point of the scene. Yeah, I love it.
Yep.
I do like how she tries her swivel move on Bucky,
Yeah.
and it doesn't work. And she's doing the thing with the elbows, and he just throws her off. And I was like,
It's one of the few times in the MCU where you see a character do things that you know work and they don't, and you're like, oh, new level of competition here.
I did like how she shocked herself with the thing she has
Yes.
to get the thing off, and she goes, those do hurt. I go, okay.
Honestly, she
that's
has
not
some of
bad.
my favorite lines in this movie. I love all the back and forth with her and Steve and the dating, and the girl with the lip ring. I'm not ready for that. I am definitely not ready. He's like, I know me. I'm not ready for a girl with a lip ring.
Then, what's her name? The nurse.
Sharon Carter.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I was going to
It's a
mention.
niece. Peggy's niece, right?
Yes.
And nothing in this movie is a little creepy. It's a little creepy in Civil War. And then it's dropped.
No,
But is it-
it's not.
Is it actually creepy though? Because they didn't even kiss, did they? Or did
It's
they
not.
did.
It's not dropped.
Oh,
She
wait.
comes back in
Captain Falcon.
Captain Falcon.
Oh, that's
yeah,
right.
and she's the bad guy now for some reason.
No,
yeah.
that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, for that character, it does.
See? Context.
It'll be explained later once Wolverine's allowed to be in the universe. Yeah.
Will it be explained though?
I'm pretty sure. It's a pretty for where they're
'Cause
going.
that-
It's actually a fairly important thing. Madripoor is like the home base of mutants that have nowhere else to go. And
Is she a mutant?
no, she's just the kind of person that's running everything over there until somebody else shows up.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a thing. There's other hints throughout Phase 4 and 5 for it. But yeah, it'll be referenced.
I have learned to trust Nick on these.
Again, a lot of the stuff they're doing, it's like, oh, I get where they're going. Nobody else is going to because they're not telling us. They're not telling us like they used to. Because they're going in 50 directions, Jake, and none of them converge.
So tell
They're
me.
gonna bring us back to Thor: The Dark World.
Let's go.
It's all gonna come back to that moment.
Watch Frigga die 5 more times.
Do you feel anything yet? Nope. Do you feel anything yet? Nope. But I was going to say, so tell me. So, what is his name? Brock Rumlow.
Crossbones.
Is
Yep.
he in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all? Because he is set up to be a minor villain, and we get 5 or 10 minutes of him in Civil War at the beginning, and then he's gone.
I don't believe so.
That's just...
But it's been so long since I've watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He probably did, actually, because they had like Lady Sif popping up and other people from the MCU popping up. He probably did make an appearance once or twice.
Because like this movie sets up that they've set him up to be a villain, and then the next Cap movie opens with him, and that's where he sets the bomb off and dies, and he has the funny punch hands, like
Yeah.
thing, and it's like I feel like this would be kind of a fun villain somewhere, but they
He's
kill
the
him off.
scarecrow
Forever.
of the franchise. He's in all 3 movies, but he's not the main.
Is he in the first one?
Rumlow?
Yeah.
Isn't he? No, never mind. I thought he was there in New York, but I forgot. It goes right to the New York outside street, and it cuts away from
Yeah,
there.
I think he's just in the 2 movies.
Two movies. But yeah, he's
Or
that character.
does he have a cameo with Sitwell and Pierce in Endgame? Is he on the elevator?
He is in the elevator.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's who he says Hell Hydra to.
That's right.
Yeah. So he does pop back up. Also, time travel, multiverse. We might still get him.
Poor Jasper gets thrown out of a
One
car,
of my favorite deaths in this franchise.
and then he's
Poor guy's tortured on a roof and then thrown into a truck.
Yep,
I
and that's
do-
the
I do
first
like
Doctor
that
Strange name drop.
That's not me, but that's her MO.
Yeah. You're right. I wouldn't do that. She would.
Yeah, I do like Robert Redford in the movie.
Yeah.
Not the most memorable villain,
No.
but good.
Is that
Does
the
his
same?
role.
Is that the same council that was on the screens in Avengers?
I don't know because I feel like Avengers they had them like half in shade, like the top halves of their faces were covered. I don't really remember.
That's just
Also,
that's
why
just
would they put
2012
those-
special effects.
Yeah.
Why would they put those? Why would they put those physical chairs there for them if they're just projections? Comic books. Comic books.
Yeah, that was who cares?
Who knows why the CG artists did what they did that day?
Yeah. The makeup on Haley Atwell too looked a little rough.
I loved that scene, but that makeup is hard to look at.
That's one of those.
Oh,
The Peggy
yeah, okay.
scene.
Agent Carter.
That's one of those scenes where it's like, just recast as someone older. Just come on.
I think her performance was great. Dude, that makeup is just so bad.
So okay,
Get Titanic lady in there or something.
I'm jumping way ahead on this, but I wanna ask Nick because Nick will be the resident expert on this.
Sure.
Is the theory that the husband of Peggy that is referenced is what ends up being old Cap?
That is the current theory from a lot of people. I don't think it's ever been confirmed. I think one of the writers offhandedly said, "Yeah, sure, we'll go with that." But it doesn't really make sense. Like,
I mean, yeah, it
even
does.
back then, Cap was on playing cards. Coulson had him. Like, Cap was a name. He was famous. He was in comic books. Like, she's not gonna walk around working a government job and nobody being like, "Aren't you Captain America? Aren't you Steve Rogers? You know, the one guy we gave a super serum to who took down the Red Skull."
Suppose not. I don't know.
I feel like there's no way for it to, unless it's alternate timeline.
But
He could have actually, there is I know, because she mentions it in this timeline that she had a husband.
that would also make Sharon like blood related to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
A little weird. A little weird.
So we'll just say no, she married someone else and he went back and stole your girl. That guy.
Hey, if we can take over someone's physical body in Wonder Woman 84, I have multiple sexual encounters in this body, and then just decide,
Wait,
I'll
what?
The
Are you
mind
saying-
and control of that body gave consent at the time, Jared.
it's like this. This is uncomfortable. What were you
Yeah.
saying, Jake?
I've never seen that movie. What are
So
you?
bad.
she makes a wish on a literally like a monkey paw wish to have, what is his name,
Steve Trevor.
Steve Trevor back. So what she sees is Steve, but he his soul inherits someone else's, some
That she
random
works
guy's
with, yeah.
some guy's body. So we see Chris Pine when he looks in the mirror, it's the real guy. So he's taken over someone else's body.
Yeah.
And they do things off screen, and it's like they make this decision of no, I can't, because if she undoes the wish thing, he disappears. But they make the choice of no, you have to go stop this. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, did they really just enslave this guy's body
And,
for
there's
their
even,
own?
there's even a tag scene where after he's not in his head anymore, she walks by him and he gives her a knowing look, like, I recognize you from somewhere. So his mind was somewhere in there still.
It's a little weird.
Why did you even put that last scene in there, implying that somewhere in his mind he was present for it?
A little bit of Stockholm syndrome.
You know, a really super easy way to get around that.
Don't make the movie.
Well, that Kingdom Hearts it.
Wait, I'm gonna ask. I have never played Kingdom Hearts. I'm gonna see if the Kingdom Heartsing it has anything to do with how they handle it in the comics of bringing Steve Trevor back. It's his grandson. He had a kid she didn't know about, and she just falls in love with his grandson.
No.
That's
Can I get
Weird.
my?
I know.
It's still weird, but it's way better than
Can I
taking
talk
over a
about
man's
Kingdom
body.
Hearts real quick?
Why are you asking me to talk about Kingdom Hearts?
Go ahead.
So
much Kingdom Hearts in my
in
life.
Kingdom Hearts, you're a whole when you're a person, right?
Sure.
And then you get when you lose your
It's a
heart.
sentence.
What happens when we lose our heart, Jake?
When you lose your heart, you get separated into two: a heartless and a nobody.
So someone rips you a new one, basically.
Basically,
They just rip that hole apart.
So you can take the heart
it
and you can take the heart and put it into
No.
put it into a body that is not dead, but is dead, or an inanimate body, and that's an entire plot device.
Why do people like Kingdom Hearts?
I don't know. It's garbage, and I love it.
Every person I know that loves Kingdom Hearts says the game is trash, but they love it.
No.
No, the game is good. the lore is trash,
Yeah.
but they love it.
I mean, literally one of the reasons
Pure
that
chaos.
the bad guy can track the good guy in one of the games is he
I should have said no.
The thing is, couple quick rights and Kingdom Hearts is part of the MCU. It's all Disney.
I mean, shoot, they're already making a Kingdom Hearts show and movie.
Well, just throw Robert Downey Jr. in there.
He had,
Ching.
I mean, they're already
Arcane worked.
So my guy, I'm just here to tell you, I'm pretty sure they're putting MCU in Kingdom Hearts 4.
Oh yeah, obviously. I'm just waiting for it all to culminate into a battle of the network stars, but with all of Disney's properties and movies.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It's like Nickelodeon. You know Nickelodeon Brawl Stars. It's that, except with Disney.
I miss when Marvel was just a whole bunch of dudes smoking cigars, riding around on Segways, and not catering to a mouse.
Tony Stark built this in a cave.
Tony Stark built this in a cave.
A box of scraps.
That is one of my. That is also one of my favorite TikToks. There's this angry dude that goes in and shouts that in bad Marvel movies.
Oh, that's amazing! I love that line. I love they brought it back later on. Oh, Bill Billingsley.
Are you done talking?
All that to say,
yeah,
why
Kingdom Hearts,
didn't they put his body into an inanimate somebody?
I forgot we were talking about Wonder Woman.
Oh no, sorry, that's what it is. So when you are split in half, you have your nobody and your heartless. But
when you ripped a new one.
But when they come back together, they're called a somebody.
You know, I could use
Is
somebody.
it SUM?
I don't know.
Like the sum of
41.
No, it's not that clever. It's just literally the word somebody.
Kingdom Hearts, I forgot.
I love that franchise. I love it so much.
Sam Jackson is real fun in this movie.
Okay.
He's just constantly getting hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, why wouldn't they have taken out his dead eye from the retinal scanners? Wouldn't you just cleared everything from Nick
That's
Fury?
what. Yeah.
Don't forget the last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye.
He did trust Goose. And Goose betrayed him.
It's just so funny. This serious part became a joke because it was a Flurkin.
Yeah.
Scratched him.
The Flurkin. It was Goose.
The
I named my
Flurkin.
car after that cat.
I do love in that the yell he makes when he gets scratched is so funny. Ah! We should have had it. He's the traitor. Ah! Back to Star Wars.
Back to Kingdom Hearts.
So, question before we get to that movie. Do we know if at any point Captain America tries to sacrifice himself to be the big bad hero like he does in these two movies? First going down with the plane in the first one. This one, blow up the ships now. You got to get out, Steve. No, I'm going down with them. Stop trying to
He's a
unalive
captain.
yourself. Yeah, I don't care.
Captain
going
goes down with
no,
the ship.
I didn't think about it. Oh, that's exactly what it is. They're not clever enough to think about that, probably. Actually, it's the same writers, so maybe they actually were.
Do we need to get Cap some help? Is that what we're saying?
That's what I'm thinking. He's like, I've been alive for 90 years. I am so done. I have a list of things I have to catch up on. I'm on the internet. What's the internet, guys? I think he's trying to unalive himself, is what I'm saying. But he wants to go out a hero, so he puts himself in these high-risk situations.
I mean, let's be perfectly honest about this. Sam wasn't really even trying to run when they were... He wasn't even...
He knew better. He knew he wasn't going to catch up.
That's fair.
He's like, I'll let him do all the work. I'm going to jog.
Is this the most Agent Hill does in anything
No.
movie-based?
She blows up... no, she hands Nick Fury a rocket launcher and Spider-Man to blow... Never mind, those are Kree. Those aren't even actually them. I forgot.
I think this is the most
It
screen
might
time
be.
she has.
She did...
Either this or Avengers.
Yeah,
I don't-
Avengers probably.
Because I kept forgetting who that was when
Could she
she'd
help with
pop
the
up.
escape?
Whenever she
Wait,
would pop up
wait.
after this, I'd be like, oh, yeah,
No
her.
Way Home?
Yeah, but that's not actually her.
Far From Home.
Far From Home.
Far From Home, they're Kree? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
End credit scene.
Yeah,
Yep.
oh my gosh.
Because Nick Fury is on a ship.
I hate after credit scenes. Hate them.
Well, you can blame Ferris Bueller for him. I think that's the first big one.
Probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I was waiting for you guys to go a lot harder on this movie.
We don't have to.
It's not. I mean, it's not.
Just the way you prep me for it.
It's just not brilliant like everyone says it is.
I think it's just bordering on people still put it way up here, and it's like it's kind of pedestrian compared to a lot of blockbusters now, and not because of special, just because it's not in the context when it came out. It changed a big thing, but then when you look back, it's like it's not that big of a change.
Consider who we're talking to here. Like Nick knows all the lore and connects to it that way. He's not.
I'm not looking at these movies as the movies. I'm looking at these movies as a continuation of my childhood.
Yeah, like it's not like talking to one of our friends who is just like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like as a movie, this is like the best movie I've ever seen.
I always think of it as me going to see my favorite band live and bringing a friend along who's never heard the band. I'm going to sing every song. I know all the lyrics. I know all the words. I probably know what they're going to do on stage. They're in for a new experience, and it's up to the band to make them like them. And a lot of these movies don't really do that if you don't have that initial investment. And I'd say this is one of them, kind of. You kind of have to care about these characters going in to care about them within this movie.
I think that's a big problem that I have with it. It's predicated on you have to care what was going on at the end of the first movie, and I don't think that a movie should do that.
And also, but you also got to think back when these specific movies were being made, they were shooting for me. They weren't shooting for you guys.
No, that's fair.
Kevin Feige was shooting for people like him. It wasn't until probably after, I would say, Age of Ultron, where they're like, all right, these need to be for everybody. Because Ultron did not work, and we need to figure out why, and we need to course correct. Before that, it was, they make the money they make. None of these guys are massive actors. They aren't big names. Chris Evans did Not Another Teen Movie.
Best role.
He did Fantastic Four, which he was second best in after Michael Chiklis. But now these are all the biggest names in the world, and we got to make sure they continue to be the biggest names in the world. So we have to please all the people. Back then, it was like we just got to get them comic book nerds in here. At Comic-Con, when they put up the original title of this movie, which was Serpent Society, and the crowd was dead, and they were like, we're kidding, it's Winter Soldier, and everybody erupted, and there was like standing ovation. Like, that's who they were making these movies for back then.
See, but like Serpent Society makes more sense as a title for the movie for me.
Not if you knew the Winter Soldier comic book, though.
Fair.
Because, like, same movie, but you put the comic book title that everybody read 15 years ago, and all of us nerds are like, yes, let's go. I know exactly what the story is. That's my take on Captain America.
So then are you excited for Captain America New World Order?
Is it New World Order or Brave New World?
I don't know.
Brave New World Order. No, I think it's...
Brave New World Order Joy Division.
I think it's New World Order, but I could be wrong.
Captain America Joy Division. There we go. It's Brave New World. I just looked at it. But I like Joy Division better.
I am excited. Also worried.
It's going to be kind of weird. I like Sam.
I think that's my big thing is I love Anthony Mackie, and I love Sam Wilson as a character. And I loved his comic run when he was Cap. So I'm hoping that can carry me through, because I haven't been super pleased with a lot of what they've been doing with characters I've loved in the past.
Well, they made most of them serializations, and I think that kind of killed the ability.
Except Miss Marvel. Shining gem of the current MCU, Miss Marvel.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair.
This will lead into something you said to me the other day, but and this will be this will be part of one thing I hold against Winter Soldier is ruining the voice and style of a lot of these movies.
Yes.
Not all of them are like that, as evident by What's Next Week, but most of them became bland and boring in presentation. There's no style in the directing, and there's an emotional disconnect.
Yep.
And it's all because the Russos, while talented, have no style in these movies, which is weird because they come from one of the most quirky original
But you also
sitcoms.
have a very quirky showrunner in Dan Harmon helping guide all that.
Yeah, which is where the quirk is.
We want to use, huh?
That, for Community, very much so, I would say.
Okay. Okay.
And before that was Arrested Development.
Yeah.
Another show that has its own quirkiness. And like both of those have very distinct styles, and while fitting within the time they were made, stand out. And then you get to this, and it's just bland.
They've gone past this and produced very quirky-esque things. Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like,
That's right.
There's a lot of quirkiness to it, and they were producers on that. I think they were EPs, both of them were. Was it The Gray Man? I haven't seen, but I hear there's a lot of funny, quirky stuff in it for a very not good movie, which they also produced.
I think they directed that.
Maybe they did direct it.
Didn't they also do the 21 Bridges thing?
I think so, yeah.
Did they do Cherry? The Tom Holland music video?
I think they were producers, but I don't think they were like super involved in it.
Gotcha.
I think they mostly just had producer credits on that one.
Gotcha. Just, it's so weird how, like, what are their big movies? Just don't have a lot of style. They don't. It's kind of similar to how, at a certain point, the Harry Potter movies all become the same movie.
Yeah.
'Cause those first, like, 4, you can tell them apart. After that fourth, well, technically after the third one, but the fourth one still feels different from the third. Mm-hmm. They all kind of become the same movie.
Yeah, I'd say, while I do feel like this movie does have a style, with sweeping shots and other things, it's a very boring style.
Yeah. You said there was something about the
color grading?
Yeah, did you already mention that in this episode?
No, I think I remember hearing Marcus McFeely talking about on a Kevin Smith podcast that part of the reason that everything is like a blue color grading, there's 2 reasons. One, they were shooting for like Bridge of Spies and things like that were very popular. There were Zero Dark 30 and things like that were very popular back then, kind of along the similar lines that they were shooting for. So they wanted to kind of mimic that, but also they wanted the next episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be able to fit within this movie. And basically you could take any scene and kind of cut them in and out. So they kind of made this movie look closer to the TV show. That way it had very similar feelings when after Friday night watching this movie, you go home Monday and watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it kind of just goes one right into the other. That episode, I think, takes place right in the middle of this movie as S.H.I.E.L.D. is starting to go down. That is that full episode, is them. I watched 10 minutes of it, didn't get to watch all of it, but it's them all holding guns at each other, not sure who they can trust. They all have ulterior motive things that they were doing throughout the season that they're calling into question at this point. And then somebody on the team does end up being bad. But yeah, they needed to make sure it worked right into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because it was all connected at that time. So that's kind of where our look for this movie comes from.
Is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canon?
To a certain point.
I think we've talked about this.
I think you have seen.
I think this is literally the splitting point. I think it's a couple episodes after this they split, and at one point become re-canon again, and then split again, if I remember correctly. But yeah,
kind of weird Back to the Future shenanigans, or
they weren't sure if they wanted to make it a thing. I think Agent Carter came out and it was fairly successful, so they brought it back into the canon. And then second season of Agent Carter wasn't successful, so they took it back out of the canon. Yeah.
I think that's my big gripe with it is, one, big popular thing that people revere ends up being perfectly adequate.
Yeah.
So that annoys me. But, you know,
Hipster.
people can like stuff, of course. It's not like I hate this.
Yeah.
He's kidding. He hates when people like things.
No, I don't know. I hate when people call something good because they like it solely, and then they put it up on the pedestal of this is the best thing ever. It's like, this? Okay.
I'm sorry if that makes for a boring podcast for everybody, but I'm not going to be that person for most of these movies. I won't fight it mostly. I'll just explain why they're wrong. I'll just let them know why they're wrong.
Yeah. And the other thing is just...
like, wait. Wait.
And the other thing is, again, what it did to the style. It's like, these are just... They used to be, even if they weren't good, each one felt unique.
Yeah.
And there's no voice in this at all.
And honestly, I blame the next Captain America by bringing everybody into it.
What next Captain America? You mean Avengers 2.5?
Yeah, where you bring everybody in, and then when they split, they all take a little bit of that movie with them in their style.
Yeah. I don't like Civil War that much.
I love
and I am not looking forward to watching it again.
There are for certain aspects of
You know what I said about it's funny how the Winter Soldier is not, for a movie named The Winter Soldier, it's not really about the Winter Soldier.
Civil War is far more about Winter Soldier than this movie.
Captain America Civil War is not really about Captain America. They could have just called it Civil War.
It's also way more about Bucky. Like the whole thing is about Bucky.
I'm trying to think what's a good. It shouldn't be Captain America. It should be The Adventures of Bucky Bonzaroo or whatever that. There we go. There, we did it. We fixed
Sometimes
the title.
I hate you.
I'm just saying. Is it Bonzaroo or Bonsai?
Buckaroo Banzai.
Buckaroo Banzai. So
I
Bucky Banzai. There we
I
go.
will say that I really do like Civil War, from what I remember of it, just because it's stupid and fun.
Do not say the airport scene. I'm so sick of people saying the airport scene.
The airport scene's amazing.
The 20 minutes in the second half of the movie. What about all the stuff before it? They go, what stuff?
I love all the stuff before it.
I know you do. We're not talking about you.
You got Black Panther's dad being killed and him going on a revenge mission, even though Natasha tells him not to. You got other things that happen. There's the chase scene in the tunnels. Great. Grabs a motorcycle, flips a guy off it, and just rides onto it.
I wasn't actually going to say the
airport scene.
Yeah. I just really like what it presents.
Tony Stark flirting with Aunt May the whole time.
I also really like the introduction of Spider-Man into the MCU.
So good.
I do.
It's a good scene.
I know. I realize that is the airport scene.
I didn't even think about that. It is kind of the airport scene.
Like, that scene exists for Spider-Man to come into the MCU. I get that. I also think it's funny that Tony can fall from any height with his suit, but when Rhodey does, his spine breaks.
That's right.
I'm just saying.
Tony still has electricity most of the time, which is still controlling all of the micro pads.
You would think that there would be some sort of like airbag sort of system. I mean, the thing is open air system and doesn't leak underwater. So
you see that in the next movie. Actually, one of my favorite things about Iron Man through these movies is every movie you see him come up against something that he couldn't handle in the previous movie. It started with the de-icing thing. They did it in movie. But every movie, something pops up where it's like he couldn't handle it last time, and the next time you see Rhodey, he ends up having to use his parachute. No, Spider-Man uses a parachute. He puts one into his suit because Rhodey didn't have one. Yep. And that's one of my favorite little key things about Tony.
This is Tony Stark's universe, and they're all just existing in it.
But Tony Stark should have put a parachute in the very first Iron Man suit after escaping the desert and crash landing.
See, he didn't. How did he not get hurt in that? I know we talked about this.
Suit.
He didn't get hurt in this, but in like this state of the art war machine, Bucky Rhodey has to break his back. Yeah, something about being a person with a disability, watching Rhodey do that just upsets me every time I do
it. That's valid. But he gets back at him. He gets to call him Tony Stank. It's all worth it.
Anyway, we're talking about Civil War. I don't know why. We're not there yet.
Oh, speaking of Tony Stank, though, what was the Stanley cameo in this one?
That he goes to get, he says, I need a suit, and then he's the security.
I'm going to get fired for this.
I am so fired.
Yeah, okay. Because I remember really liking it earlier when I saw it pop up. I was like, I like that cameo. And then I just completely forgot about it.
Yeah, and then last week we didn't mention it. It's the, can I have my shoe back?
That's right.
When Eric's teaching his class.
Yep.
Part of me wishes they'd give him like a little meteor cameo.
He's a watcher.
That's right.
But I mean, like, have him be like one of the villains with the guns one time. I know he's dead now, but
that would be amazing. I'm pretty sure they have, unfortunately, the rights to use his likeness forever. Everybody does. Well, that's a Stan Lee decision where he's like, I want to be seen forever, but I think his family's fighting it. So we'll see. That's why we haven't seen it. His daughter has been fighting that decision, if I remember correctly.
What was his cameo in the third Iron Man?
Third Iron Man?
He was in the bar, I think.
What bar?
The bar that they go into in Tennessee.
The dossier bar.
Yes. He was one of the rednecks in the bar. I was thinking at the beginning at the party. I forgot Tennessee completely, just like Jared was talking about last week.
I think that's how part of the reason how he's able to like these movies so much. He just forgets it the minute after he sees it.
I remember the fun stuff and the good stuff and the fun lines. It's how I live most of my life.
Whereas you only remember the bad stuff.
Also, Jake, you gotta remember, if I like a thing, I go on YouTube and watch other people watch that thing. And they only put up the good parts on their videos. You get 20 minutes of a movie, but only the good pieces.
It's fair. It's also like what he does. He goes and researches a thing, and sometimes, a lot of times, ends up liking a thing less.
Yeah.
I've been there.
Especially when it's like famous people and you read background information, like people we were talking about the other day, and it's like, oh, I guess I can't like them anymore.
Yeah, how I ruined one of my favorite movies for Jared last night.
Yeah.
The other night.
Another movie.
What movie is that?
Leon the Professional.
Oh.
Did you know that Luc Besson had a child bride at 16? That she was 16? Yeah, she just came out with a movie with Johnny Depp this weekend. Apparently pretty good. But yeah, I found that out yesterday that
Was it Dutch?
It's not Dutch. But
You wish it was Dutch.
He did meet her at 12, though, and people assume that Leon the Professional is written about her at 12. There's the ruining of the movie for you. When it becomes a real story, it's real gross.
I don't know. Today I figured out that my great-great-grandfather was like 15 years older than my great-great-grandmother, and that makes me a little freaked out.
Not condoning it. Back then, that was just how it was. That was like just the social normity for a lot of people.
To be fair, it was when they immigrated over to the only reason I know their ages was because I have not the shipping list, but the manifest from the ship that they emigrated over on, and he was like 58 and she was like 46. So yeah.
Hey, and at least they were both adults. Well, I don't know
at
when they
that
got
time.
together. Yeah, I don't know when they got together. I don't know them. This episode took a turn.
The Winter Soldier.
I wonder if they emigrated.
Do we have anything else to say?
I like Allendale, and I like Allendale in most things I see him in.
Oh, the rooster from Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Yeah. D, right?
Is that Allendale?
Allendale.
No. Oh, no. Wrong one.
Oh, man.
Allendale from Once Upon a Time, and
Councilman Rockwell.
Is he in any of the other ones? Any of these other movies? I don't think so.
I don't recall. If so, it's probably a very minor.
Well, I mean, he's a councilman. I'm surprised he didn't die in this movie.
Valid. But yeah, I don't think he has a.
We didn't talk much about the elevator scene, which is kind of the scene of this movie.
As much as I love the elevator scene, I honestly think it's overshadowed by the second take on it in Endgame. I think being able to take that scene, one of the most iconic ones in the MCU, and also take history from the comics and turn it on its head, where he's just like, "Hail Hydra," and he's just gone.
Dude, isn't there a whole run where Cap is a Hydra agent?
But it's very much like this, where he's like he's faking. Yeah, he's just he's undercover. But a picture of Cap in a Hydra outfit came out, and the internet lost its mind.
I will say, Captain Falcon, one of the most kind of like impactful things I saw in that was that thought of a dark Cap, like a genuinely dark Cap.
Yeah.
For those listening, we don't call it the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We call it Captain Falcon.
I call it Captain Falcon.
Which would have worked better as a movie.
Yeah.
There's, with a lot of those like 6-episode Marvel shows, yeah, this could have been a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, as much as I love, I love Chris Evans as Cap, I would have loved to see him go up against John Walker.
Is John Walker the dark Cap?
Yeah. Yeah, like having him go up against this dude who thinks he's doing the right thing, but he's doing everything wrong and he's going around killing people.
It's such a compelling thing.
Yeah, I love that Sam got to go against him, but I would have loved to see Chris Evans go up against that.
I wonder if Chris...
And maybe shake his faith a little bit. Maybe Chris Evans rethink his views on things.
So yeah, you hear rumors that like Chris Evans and like people like that are thinking about coming back or something like that. You wonder if stuff like that can happen then.
Possibly. So I think with the people coming back thing, I think Marvel's initial plan before Jonathan Majors had his issues was one of Kang's powers is he is able to call upon armies.
Kang, not Krang.
Kang, okay. Yeah, sorry, Kang. He's able to call upon armies of everybody he has slain. So if he has killed you, he can bring you back to life to fight for him. So my assumption is he went through the multiverse, killing Avengers. And so in the movie that we see him in, he brings them back to fight their friends from a different universe. And that's where we'd probably see them coming back, is in the Kang Dynasty movie.
And that would lead into the Secret Wars thing because...
And then you'd have the good versus good-bad. But now with Kang not being a thing, I feel like if they do want to come back, this is how they will repurpose that return, is to put them into their franchises again. Seems how we don't have a new supervillain that can bring back the dead.
Old Man Cap would be a great. They could.
Joe Biden just walking around with his shield.
Dark Brandon. Oh
Dark
my God.
Brandon.
Dark Brandon just walking around with the Captain America shield, just hitting the air.
It's like the Endgame scene of all the portals opening up, but you just in the background. Instead of on your left, you hear, "Let's go, Brandon." And
then
John
you just
Walker's approaching.
And then you just see the red eyes just open up.
That's where the MCU goes if they really fall in hard times.
I'd watch that movie.
It's a weird right-wing propaganda MCU spin-off. Get on a Daily Wire.
And then the fact that he just leans into the whole Dark Brandon thing makes me so happy.
I like being bad.
How did we get on American politics?
It's Captain America.
Suppose.
It's bound to happen. These movies are all about American politics, just fake American politics.
Are they really that fake?
They were at the time, or at least thought to be.
You ever wonder if someone watched this movie and like, we can do that?
Honestly, after watching the Fallout series, I'm just like, yeah, no, people are the worst. I can see them doing any of this.
I got nothing else.
I enjoyed this movie.
A lot of people do.
Yeah.
What's with everybody with long hair being really sweaty in the MCU?
Elaborate, I guess. I don't know. It's something I haven't noticed.
Bucky?
Oh yeah, I know. Loki is always sweating. He do be greasy.
Well, we have two.
Thor to a lesser extent.
No,
that guy in the elevator that we saw this bead of sweat dripped out.
Yeah.
His hair was longish. I don't know.
They all
long
just
hair
look,
makes you sweat more.
They all
it's
just
heavier
look
than not
super
having
like
long hair.
they all just look like super greasy.
Your hair is like false.
No, my hair's really, really dry.
How long would your hair be if you were to stretch it out at this point?
I don't. Here?
That's it?
Probably.
You've probably gone a few years without getting it cut
A
anyways.
couple. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know how it doesn't grow out. It just kind of grows in on itself.
It's called a hair tie. It's wrapped up together. Sorry.
Yeah, how long has it been since you've been able to get that hair tie out?
But I can take it out right now.
So it's not the center of
his world. No.
Yeah.
It's starting to come apart too, which is sad.
Yeah, you need a new one.
Yeah. I have another one, but it's really, really tight and it hurts and gives me headaches.
Valid. When I had longer hair, I used to hate putting it in. Sometimes you gotta have it in.
But you have to. How else do you eat?
I know.
It's terrible.
Luckily,
You bend
mine's
down,
not
it
like
gets
yours
in
where
your
if
face.
I comb it back, it stays back. I don't have the curl problem that you have.
I need to reference your picture for that.
Oh, that's some good hair right there.
Yeah.
some nice rosy red sanded cheeks.
Good picture of me. It's the one I get made fun of most for.
What, you laughing, dancing with someone at a wedding?
Yeah.
You get made fun of for that? It's a
Oh
good
yeah,
picture.
I love that picture though, so that's okay.
All right.
I know how to pick them.
Captain America.
The Winter Soldier.
Are we good?
Yeah, I
You good, Nick?
On your left. If that makes any sense. I don't know.
I mean, that was
I'm on his left.
I'm on your left.
Technically,
Yeah.
he is on my left
Technically,
and on my right.
Yeah, depending on what way you go.
It's all a matter of perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was a good callback in Endgame. How is it so hard to talk about these movies without talking about what comes later?
Because it's all connected up until Endgame.
Yeah, that's fair. And then it just
But
goes.
notice how we rarely mention anything past it.
That's
It's
funny.
almost like
Because,
that connective thread.
so it's funny because one of my favorite movies from the MCU comes after Endgame.
Same. I wonder if it's the same movie.
I think probably maybe so.
Probably not, because I think yours is Spider-Man.
Okay. Do you not like that one?
No, I love that movie.
Is he gonna say Shang-Chi?
No, Guardians 3. I really like
Oh,
Guardians
okay. That okay.
It's a good finale to a-
but that's valid though.
It's my favorite of the trilogy in that movie series. So,
I have my thoughts on it, but we'll hear that later.
I have my thoughts on Spider-Man.
We'll hear
I
that
don't think
later.
It's as good of a movie as everybody says it is.
There's an argument for that.
I think it's more of a movie that's more focused on. I'll get there eventually.
More focused on nostalgia than actually being a movie.
Well, not nostalgia, fan service.
I'm okay
Care
with
more
that,
about
though.
fan service than a compelling story. Even though I do think the story was compelling and good. But
It's Pokemon with Spider-Man.
very much so.
Detective Spider-Man.
All right, you know what? I like the movie more now.
I just like the lore around it, how they tried to hide Andrew Garfield. And no, I'm not in the movie, guys.
Oh, I can't wait to rewatch all of the behind-the-scenes stuff when we get to that movie.
Anyway,
Yeah, let's close out.
I think we're done.
We're going for 3
next
hours on
week,
this one movie.
next week, I don't know what's next week. What's next week?
Next week is
Guardians
Oh.
of the Galaxy.
That's the Guardians movie I don't really care for.
Same.
I am glad we're all in agreement.
It's the worst Guardians movie.
I love the movie, but not as much as most people. I also have a lot of issues with
But
the
that's
movie.
next week.
Yes.
That's next week. Until then, you can look for us. Where, Jared?
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, the funny TikTok, and X.
Formerly known as Twitter.
And you can listen to us on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. And hey, if it's YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, ring our bell. Make sure you like us and rate us on all those apps. And check out our groovy website.
Well, so, if you like hearing us rant and rave about these drudgeries of the MCU, come along with us.
And if they sit well with you.
This is the last time we can make that joke.
I know. I know. He literally got trucked.
They just take the 2 connections to S.H.I.E.L.D., Sitwell, and Coulson to get out of here.
Anyway, as we trudge through this and get more and more
Truck through this.
phased out. Have a good one.
Bye.
Why am I looking at Road Trips IMDb? They're just going for a different thing to play to a younger audience.
They made the same movie but worse and added 10 minutes of... By making it boring?
I think what's making me cough more is...
Multiple Sitwell jokes for a character that was so inconsequential in the grand scheme. I love it.